Hey everyone, sorry for a little break in videos, but I thought to kick it off again, we'd go and check out what Korea has cooked up for us. And I saw last time most people wanted more new or more random picks instead of just like stuff that is really strong. So that is what I've spent my time finding today. If you prefer this, then make sure you like the video. If you don't, feel free to dislike it, that's fine. And just so you know as well, Club is having a double coin weekend starting today. They're also looking into lowering the price of RP on the site, so this is a really good chance to get closer to some free skins, and I'll put more info and the link to join down below. We're going to start off with something that you've probably seen a little bit off and on right now, which is TRISTANA mid or top lane. The reason this works is because she's a hyper-aggressive AD. Really good damage early game, sort of kind of like burst actually, just like a mage. It's not like a normal AD where you're kind of farming and waiting for later. Like this is a kill lane, and that is the idea, and that is where a lot of people go wrong as well. This is why you take Ignite. You don't play it to farm. That is also one downside. You have to fully commit if you actually want to go in, but if you don't, you're actually pretty safe with the jump, right? You can escape your ganks. You don't need a support to help you that much. The reason this works so well when you do it right is because most mid lanes just cannot deal with her when she jumps in and she fully commits. She has too much damage and they can't return it. If she gets ahead, you're pretty much screwed completely. She's going to keep farming kills over and over and have a huge CS lead. After that, she's going to move onto towers, nuke those down with her explosive charge. She takes them way faster than most AD carries. And one different part as well to AD carry is that you get your Phantom Dancer like third or even second sometimes. You don't need to be the highest possible damage output because you're not playing the AD role. You're still going to scale well, like you're still an AD carry, and if you get fed early, you can 1v9 the game pretty much. You have a mix of burst and auto attack damage as well, and your resets to clean up more than one person. It is basically a cheese pick. It's just an all or nothing kind of like go in and kill somebody, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but normally it does work. Next up, we're actually going to move into the bot lane. We have pretty much a new best kill lane in the game now, or very close to anyway. Everyone at high ranks is playing Volleybet support now because he can fight so well in the lane phase. He's extremely tanky, especially with his passive. It's going to heal you for a ton, so you basically have to have your Ignite up if you actually want to kill him, or wait for his passive to be down, I guess, and do it again afterwards. But then you also have Aftershock. You engage super well with that. Like, you're running at people to fight, you flip them, you proc your Aftershock, you have good damage with that, like the follow-up as well. You can even roam well, but you're going to have your Moe boots, you're going to have your Righteous Glory eventually, and especially if you take Predator. Mid-game, you're kind of going to transition into basically catching people with Righteous Glory. You turn it into an off-tank for your team, basically, and that means you're never going to be bad in any team comp. We have talked about Volley a fair bit on the channel recently because his base damage is really good, but he can meat shield, especially as a support for any AD carry, or dive in on somebody else. It's sort of like how Nautilus worked for a little while, like why it was so good. Tanky, really tanky, still high damage, and some crowd control. Aftershock is your more normal keystone. You're going to heal for a ton anyway with Font of Life, and you get to stack more health, so going into Resolve is really good. But Predator is probably more fun, and it's actually very strong if you use it properly. You do a lot more damage from the runes you have, and your roams are insane. You take Ingenious Hunter as well, so you can proc the Predator a bit more because it works from your boots, and then basically you duck out Vision, you Predator, and you gank your own lane or other lanes. Another pick that we're seeing a lot more of now in Korea is AD KENNEN, and this is straight up harder to play than AP. You have to auto a lot more, you poke a lot more, and you don't just press your spells, but this is mostly top lane. It absolutely demolishes 1v1 fights, especially with this build that they've started to go as well. You'll end up having a lot of life steal. You're going to have your stuns and more stuns as well, and then more damage added on top. You're going to max your W first. That's where a lot of your damage actually comes from. There are two parts that are really important when you max it. It does more base damage, but it also uses way more AD. It goes up to 100% of your AD at max compared to 60% before. It also goes down to a 6-second cooldown from 14, so you can have more stuns out, which is kind of key to kiting people around. The damage part of it, the empowered auto, it applies every 5 attacks, so this is why you stack attack speed. And since the last time we saw AD KENNEN, we now have the new Phantom Dancer in the game. It's a big shield for surviving, diving in with your ultimate, getting a bit close because it is short range as an auto attacking champion anyway, but it is a build that nukes people down still. It is actually Vayne's build if you look at it, and then Infinity Edge afterwards, or more on hit depending on what you really want for the game. It's really good at taking towers as well because of the attack speed and the AD that you're going to build, but basically you want to split push and kind of catch people, but eventually you can easily 1v2 with the stuns. We're seeing this a lot at higher ranks right now. It's a bit harder to get used to from AP, but it is so seriously strong. Now, our jungler of today is going to be way more of an underrated pick that shot up in this patch especially. Poppy is absolutely insane early game now because of her recent changes, and she's actually a good jungler. 9.14 added the grounding mechanic onto a W, so if your W interrupts a dash, they are slowed by 25% and then grounded for 2 seconds. In 9.15, so this patch, they also added even more move speed to it, so it's now a 40% boost up from 30% before all of these changes. Early game now, that means that she can zoom into a lane. She puts up a W. If they panic and they use a dash or something like that, she's going to ground them, stop them from flashing away for 2 seconds, and that is a really easy follow-up from the laner or a stun throw as well. Honestly, a lot of it is just her ganking abilities went through the roof, and Poppy jungle wasn't that bad before all of these changes either. She was more of a pocket pick, but she has AoE clear, like a stun, a shield as well. She's more useful than most other tanks with her utility, but she actually does a lot of damage. There are 2 builds that you can go here. You can go normal tank with Cinderhulk and also an Ice Spawn for that kind of added threat later, so you can actually do some damage. That is more common and that is the most useful as well, no matter what happens in the game, because you'll always be able to frontline. The other is Warrior. It's Black Cleaver, Trinity Force, basically stacking AD and you burst really hard and nobody expects it. If you stun somebody, they're basically dead. You wouldn't have thought she does that much damage as a tank, but her Q uses 90% of her AD, E is 50%, and ultimate is 90% again. That is a lot of extra damage from just having like 1 or 2 AD items, and especially with the armor shred from Black Cleaver as well. Next up, we're going to go to bot lane again for our kind of AD role. As I said before, literally half of AD carries are just Kai'Sa and Ezreal right now in Korea. One thing that's come up a lot more is Karma in this kind of AD role. I noticed it way more this patch than before. The reason it works is because she has an ultra strong lane phase, like with poke damage and a shield to trade as well. And there isn't really much that AD carry can do to match it. It can work with mages to hit harder from range, like a mage support, or even more melee ones as well that she can follow up afterwards with the damage. Like a Pyke, for example, can execute pretty easily after Karma damage. It's weird, but like Pyke kind of turns into the threat, I guess, in that lane, and you actually have a lot of damage follow up from Karma at the same time. A lot of people do take Comet instead of Aerie, but both are okay. Aerie's like more utility, it will scale better into the game like utility wise, but Comet is way more damage. The idea is that you push, you poke the enemy AD, and you make it really hard for them to do anything or to like get any kills against you because you are pretty safe. There are 2 builds though. So Luden's first is more carry, and it's probably better at lower ranks honestly as well, where you want to be a threat and kind of carry yourself. The other build though is straight up Athene's and Sensor Rush, and I see this a lot at higher ranks. It's kind of like buffing your teammates way more. This works best when you have a high damage team though, like a Tristana mid for example works really well with that, or even Pyke support who can do damage for you instead. After lane phase, you're still going to have some decent poke, especially with Luden's, but you have a team-wide shield and speed to catch people and escape. You're turning more into like peeling for your other damage picks. You're buffing them with your sensor. You're like healing from Athene's as well, and you make it really hard for anybody to kill your team mid-game. Next up, we're just going to move into SORAKA because she's pretty similar, I guess, but this is actually support SORAKA, unfortunately. Buffed it in 9.15, base damage of a Q went up 15. It doesn't sound like a ton, but it adds up, and it does 75 now, even level 1. By the way, Volibear is actually a really good way to counter this pick if you hate SORAKA's. Apart from that, though, if you don't mess up her lane phase, you're probably not going to mess up the game. Like, SORAKA is so good out of lane. She is one of the easiest supports to play with. Not necessary to play, though she's pretty straightforward, but you can mess up as an AD, and it doesn't really matter at all. You have good poke in lane phase, you can help your team out, you can shut down ganks with silence, especially against Pyke. If your AD trades badly, it doesn't matter. But in Korea so far, if you can just finish your sensor first, then you stand a really good chance to win the game. And with Redemption second, it's about a 65% chance to win apparently. That is crazy for just 2 items, and especially as a support, but that's also buffing all of your heals by 20% with just those 2 items. We're definitely in a real like teamfight meta at the moment, and in teamfights, SORAKA makes sure your team doesn't die for a long time, and if the fight drags out like for a period of time, they keep getting their health topped up. That is so hard to play against because you either win a fight quickly or you lose pretty much. I do think early game means quite a lot in this game at the moment as well, so when she's behind, she can hopefully try to use that to shift the fight back into your favor, giving you a bit more like effective health. The kicker is though, like with a lead, when a team is ahead, instead of having to kill this fed person normally, you have to pretty much kill them twice with how many times they're healed. That makes it so much harder to just like focus one fed person down and remove them from the fight. Like, it's so hard to play against. If you want to focus down the SORAKA to kind of avoid that, it's actually not that easy to do. Like, she has her ultimate, she has a silence, she has a barrier, a heal from her AD carry as well. So you have to get through all of that if you actually want to take her out of a fight. Next up is a bit different. It's not just one pick, but kind of like a class of stuff. So right now, there are a lot of assassins in Korea. We kind of talked about this in the last Korean video. The most popular are mid laners like Yasuo, Zed, Talon, Fizz, Ahri even kind of play like an assassin, and then Akali. Obviously, they're pretty fun, but Koreans have started to whip out some counters to them in AD mid laners, and a lot more in this patch. It isn't just AD, as in like Zed is an AD champion, it's bruisers. It's like Garen, Kled, Renekton, Aatrox especially are more popular now, running basically their normal builds, but they're just there to win the lane phase. phase. Assassins are not that good if they can't get ahead early game, and these are naturally more tanky, so assassins can't burst them down, but they still have enough damage to kill those assassins as well. Especially early game, these champions are designed to have good base damage, and they end up building pretty big leads and shutting those assassins down. Kled is probably the best at the moment, but I'm just going to go through and explain each one quickly if you want to use it. So Kled is his mount system, right? And he stacks health as well. So there's literally like no way you can all in him and come out on top unless you get a really big lead. He has the healing cut now as well, really good damage, and he's also mobile to chase people down. Then afterwards, he can ultimate to top a bot lane with pretty much zero warning. Garen is just really annoying for assassins. Like, he's tanky, he stacks armor and health, but he's really strong early game and he has good damage. A lot of people don't realize that his W makes him take 60% less damage to start with and then 30% less afterwards for the rest of it. So if he uses that to stop a big cooldown, he blocks so much damage. He also has a silence as well, so they can't escape or use their mobility properly. One of the best things against them. Renekton is just a brute. He like nukes down anyone anyway. He's designed to kill bruisers pretty much, right? So mid laners are even easier. He also gets tanky with his ultimate, but this time he's bringing like a lot more damage than these other ones. Finally, Aatrox is like really strong right now anyway, but his healing damage makes things a lot harder for any mid laner, especially after Death's Dance. That is going to wrap up my look into career for this patch. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and these are a bit more like new or random, I guess, as well. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching until the very end of the video, and for now, I will leave you with robots.